The Golden Pot, a modern fairy tale. First vigil. The misfortunes of the student Anselmus, Assistant Dean Paulman's medicinal tobacco, and the gold-green snakes. About 3 p.m. on Ascension Day, a young man in Dresden came running out through the black gate, directly into a basket of apples and cakes, which a hideous old woman was offering for sale, so that everything fortunate enough to survive the tremendous crush was scattered to the winds, and urchins in the street joyously divided the booty that was thrown their way by this precipitous gentleman. At the shriek of murder unleashed by the hag, her cronies deserted their cake and brandy tables, encircled the young man, and cursed him with such vulgarity that, speechless from chagrin and shame, he merely offered his small and by no means especially full purse, which the hag clutched greedily and quickly pocketed. Now the tightly closed circle around him opened, but as the young man dashed out, the hag shouted after him, "Yes, run, run, you spawn of the devil. Run into the crystal, which will soon be your downfall. Run into the crystal." There was something frightful about the shrill, creaking voice of the woman that caused strollers to freeze in amazement, and the laughter, which had at first been general, suddenly was silenced. Despite the fact that he did not begin to understand these extraordinary phrases, the student Anselmus, and the young man was none other, nevertheless felt himself gripped by a certain involuntary dread, and he quickened his pace even more in an attempt to escape the curious looks the multitude cast upon him from all sides. As he worked his way through the crowd of well-dressed people, he heard them murmuring on all sides, "The poor young man, oh, the damned old hag." Peculiarly enough, the hag's cryptic words had cast over this amusing adventure an aura of the tragic, so that the youth now provoked a certain sympathy, even though he had before remained unnoticed. Because he was a splendid figure of a man and had a face whose handsomeness and expressiveness were enhanced by the anger which glowed within him, the ladies forgave him not only his clumsiness, but even the clothing he wore, though it was completely out of fashion. His pike gray coat was cut as if the tailor had only known of contemporary styles from hearsay, and his worn and shiny black satin trousers gave him a certain schoolmasterish air, which was at odds with the gait and bearing of the wearer. When the student had almost reached the end of the alley which leads out to the link baths, he was almost out of breath, and he began to walk instead of run. But he hardly dared to raise his eyes from the ground, because he still saw apples and cakes dancing on all sides of him, and every sympathetic look bestowed upon him by this or that pretty girl seemed to be only a reflex action to the laughter which had mocked him at the black gate. It was in this frame of mind that he ultimately arrived at the entrance to the baths, which were usually thronged by one group of festive visitors after another. The music of a brass band resounded from within, and the din of merrymaking grew increasingly louder. Tears were about to flow from the poor student, because he too had expected to take part in the festivities in the Linkian paradise. Ascension Day had invariably been a family celebration for him. Indeed, he had even intended to go so far as to indulge in half a pot of coffee laced with rum, and to have a bottle of strong beer. To assure proper dissipation, he had even put more money into his purse than was either altogether convenient or advisable. And now, because of his unfortunate step into the apple basket, all that he had carried with him had simply vanished. Of coffee, of beer, of music, of looking at beautifully dressed girls. In short of all of his anticipated pleasures, there was nothing more to be thought. He slipped slowly past the baths and finally turned down the road along the Elbe River, which happened to be deserted at the time. Beneath an elder tree that had sprouted through a wall, he found an inviting, grassy resting place. He sat down here and filled his pipe from the canister containing the medicinal tobacco that had recently been given to him by his friend, Dean Paulmann. Immediately before him, the golden waves of the beautiful Elbe rolled and tossed. Behind this, lordly Dresden rose, boldly and proudly stretching its luminous towers into the fragrant sky, which in the distance dipped down toward flowery fields and fresh spring woods, while a range of jagged mountain peaks revealed Bohemia in the dim distance. But the student Anselmus, unmindful of all of this, stared ahead gloomily and puffed smoky clouds into the air until finally he articulated his misery, saying, "In truth, I was born unlucky. Even as a schoolboy, I could never win a prize. I always guessed wrong at odds and evens. My bread and butter always fell butter side down. I will not say anything about all these miseries. But isn't it a frightening fate that assures that even now, when I have become a student in spite of everything, I remain a clumsy fool? Do I ever wear a coat without immediately staining it with tallow or catching it on some poorly fastened nail or other and tearing an accursed hole in it? Do I even greet any counselor or any lady without hurling my hat away or even slipping on the smooth pavement and stumbling disgracefully? Didn't I, while in Hall, regularly have to pay a total of 3 or 4 groschen for broken pottery every shopping day, because the devil instilled in my head the need to walk straight ahead like a lemming? Have I ever managed to get to class or to any other place where an appointment had been arranged on time? What good did it do me to start out a half hour early and stand at the door, for just as I was about to knock, swish, some devil emptied a wash basin on me, or made me bump against some fellow coming out and got me involved in endless quarrels, and so I was late for everything? Ah, where have you flown, you blissful dreams of future fortune, when I so proudly thought I might even rise to the height of privy secretary? Has not my evil star estranged me from my best patrons? I know that the counselor to whom I have a letter finds cropped hair intolerable. With enormous effort, the barber attaches a small plate to the back of my head. But at the first bow, the unhappy knot surrenders, and a little pug dog that has been blithely sniffing all around me frolics to the privy councillor with the plate in his mouth. Horrified, I dart after it, only to stumble against the table where he has been working while breakfasting, so that cups and plates and inkwell all tumble to the floor with a clatter. Even as a flood of chocolate and ink flows over the important public document he has just been writing. "Sir, has the devil gotten into you?" the incensed privy councillor bellows and shoves me out of the room. What good does it do me that Dean Paulman has made me hopeful about a secretaryship? Will the malicious fate that hounds me everywhere allow it to happen? Just today, think about it. It was my intention to celebrate a happy Ascension Day with appropriate cheer. For once I was prepared to stretch a point and would, like any other guest, have gone into the link baths and proudly have called out, "Waiter, a bottle of beer. The best in the house, please." I might have sat there till late in the evening, moreover, quite close to this or that splendid group of beautifully dressed girls. I know it. Courage would have come. I would have been an entirely different man. I would certainly have pulled it off so well that when one another of the young ladies asked, "What time is it?" or "What is it they're playing?" I would have gracefully sprung to my feet without overturning my glass or stumbling over the bench, and moving forward 1.5 steps, I would have responded, "By your leave, mademoiselle. Is the Donauweibchen overture?" or "It is just about to strike 6. Could anyone in the world have thought badly of me for this? I say no." For the girls would have glanced in my direction and smiled that mischievous smile they always show when I muster the courage to let them know that I too am acquainted with the light tone of society and with the manner in which ladies should be amused. But Satan himself directed me right into the damned apple basket, and now I sit here in solitude with only my tobacco. Suddenly, the soliloquy of the student was interrupted by a singular rustling and crackling, which began near him in the grass, but which soon glided up into the leaves and branches of the elder tree spreading over his head. First it seemed as if an evening breeze were shaking the leaves, then as if little birds were twittering on the branches, their small wings mischievously fluttering to and fro. Then a whispering and a lisping began, and it seemed as if the sound of little crystal bells was coming from the blossoms. Anselmus listened and listened. Then he himself knew not how. The whispering and the lisping and the tinkling turned into half-heard words. Betwixt the branches, between the blossoms, shooting, twisting, twirling we come. Sister, sister, swing in the shimmer, quickly, quickly, in and out, rays of sunset. Whispering wind of evening, sounds of dew, singing blossoms. We sing with the branches and the blossoms, stars soon to sparkle. We must descend betwixt, between, twisting, turning, twirling, sisters we. And thus did the confusing, hypnotic sounds continue, Anselmus thought. It is only the evening wind which tonight whispers distinct words. But at that instant there was a sound over his head like a triad of pure crystal bells. He glanced up and saw 3 little snakes, glistening in green and gold, which had twisted around the branches and stretched forth their heads toward the evening sun. Again there came the whispering and the twittering in the same words as before, and the little snakes went sliding and slithering up and down through the leaves and the branches, and because their movements were so quick, it was as though the elder tree was scattering 1,000 sparkling emeralds through the dark leaves. It is the rays of the evening sun playing in the elder tree, Anselmus thought. But the bells once more sounded, and Anselmus saw that one snake was stretching its little head out toward him. A shock like electricity raced through his every limb. He quivered all over, stared upward, saw a pair of marvelous blue eyes looking down at him with unspeakable desire, so that an unknown feeling of both supreme bliss and deepest sorrow seemed to tear his heart apart. And as he continued to stare, imbued with intense longing into those charming eyes, the crystal bells sounded harmoniously, and the playing, sparkling emeralds fell, encircling him in 1,000 glittering flames like golden threads. There was movement in the elder tree, and the tree spoke. You were lying in my shadow. My perfume surrounded you, but you did not understand me. Fragrance is my speech when it is kindled by love. The evening wind drifted by, saying, I played round your temples, but you did not understand me. The breeze is my speech when it is kindled by love. The sunbeams broke through the clouds, their rays burning with words as if to say, I drenched you with glowing gold, but you did not understand me. That glow is my speech when it is kindled by love. More and more deeply absorbed in gazing into those glorious eyes, his longing grew stronger, his desire more passionate, and everything rose and moved around him as if all were awakening to joyous life. Flowers and blossoms released their odors about him. The fragrance was like the heavenly singing of 1,000 flute-like voices. And what they sang was like an echo carried on the evening clouds of gold which sailed away with them into remote lands. But as the last ray of sun suddenly sank behind the hills and the twilight's veil covered the scene, a voice which was hoarse and deep seemed to reach Anselmus from a great distance. Hey there, what kind of gossiping and whispering is going on up there? Hey there, who is seeking my ray behind the hills? Sufficiently sunned, sufficiently sung, hey there, through bush and grass, through grass and mist. Hey there, come down, down. Thus the voice faded away as if in the murmur of distant thunder, but the crystal bells shattered in sharp discord. All became mute, and Anselmus saw how the 3 snakes, shimmering and sparkling, slipped through the grass towards the river. Gliding, sliding, they rushed into the Elbe, and a green flame crackled over the waves where they had vanished. A green flame which, glowing obliquely ahead, vaporized in the direction of the city.